Hey, what's going on, traders? This is Dr. Dave Bonanno, and I'm here to talk about the evolution of psychology as I see it very briefly, and then how trading psychology evolved out of that, and then how I started off and became really interested in trading psychology. I started as a PTSD guy, and then found out that all these traders were having trauma from the markets. So I developed this therapy called De-Adrenalization, and it's been great for people with PTSD and traders. So, very brief history of psychology. Psychology has roots that go way back to ancient philosophers who are all about logic and conscious thought. They helped set up this Western habit of over relying, in my opinion, on the rational mind and downplaying the subconscious. In 1637, Rene Descartes, the philosopher, said, I think, therefore I am. And I feel like that just really glorified the, the logical mind. and we really do need to pay much more attention to the subconscious. We're not just purely rational beings, and instincts and emotions have a lot to say about what we do. So even today, so many people really are still desperate to believe in this fantasy that you can just choose your thoughts and your attitudes and your emotions. I hear it all the time. You see it all the time. Don't you love it when people are like, oh, I can't control what happens to me, but I can control how I respond to it? No, you can't. No, you can't. You got tons of adrenaline. How are you supposed to just turn that down? Like, if you're telling somebody who's full of adrenaline that they should just calm down and just react the way that they want to react to whatever the fuck, well, it's like telling somebody who's full of alcohol that they should just be sober. I can't control how many beers I drink, but I can't control how sober I. No, you can't. No, you can't. I tried that. All right, so Sigmund Freud came along. He flipped the narrative on everything. He was in the 1880s in which he started. And he showed us that there's a whole other level to our minds, the subconscious. And by the way, I was taught in school not to call it the subconscious. You're supposed to call it the unconscious. The reason being, sub implies that it's below consciousness, as if it's not as important as consciousness. So sometimes I'll say unconscious, but I don't know. Somehow that always makes me think of Bill Cosby. It's not. It's not very wholesome. So anyway, the subconscious influences everything we do, and it's often without us realizing it. I think we're often much less in control than we would like to believe. So according to Freud, our behavior is not just driven by logic. There's the instinctual side, which is filled with unresolved drives and memories, and it has a huge impact on us. Freud changed the world at that time so profoundly. But when people look at his work today and they take it literally, it can seem ridiculous. Like, not everybody wants to bang their opposite sex parent. Although, and I'm just saying, porn sites nowadays have a lot of that shit. So, like, I heard this guy tell me who has just got out of grad school, Freud is fraud. Well, I mean, they're missing the point. They're totally simplifying it. And you don't want to take him totally literally, but he really did get people to at least think about the subconscious in a different way. So the pendulum, I believe, has swung all the way back because, people really like to believe in cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm sure you've probably heard of that. It's called CBT. It focuses on changing your thoughts. And in that way, you are supposedly going to change your emotions and your actions. People love CBT because it's practical and it does help. I mean, sometimes it really helps, but it's not the cure all, and it doesn't dig into those deeper subconscious processes that still play a massive role in how we feel and act. Like, one example of CBT is like, we have a swimming pool. I live right across the state line in Massachusetts, and my daughter always wanted me to go swimming, and it would be cold, and I'd be so pissed off, but I'd do it anyway. And then, like, all these people started talking about cold plunges and all that, and like Andrew Huberman, and I was like, oh, maybe that's a really good thing. Maybe I should do it. I don't really have the balls to do it and jump in like that. But now when she wants to go swimming, I think of it that way. So I'm totally reframing the situation. I'm changing my thoughts about it. And then it helps me to, do what I got to do. Another example is like, I was 31 when I started grad school. And then I told my brother, like, oh my God, I'm going to be 35 by the time I'm done with school. And then he said, well, how old are you going to be 4 years from now if you don't do school? And that just like really hit me, You kind of have like an aha moment with CBT if it's working right, but it doesn't always do that for you. You cannot apply it to all kinds of situations. And what my thing does, de-adrenalization, as you'll find out, is it gives you aha moments one after another, very reliably. It's extremely powerful, and it's much more universal in its usage and its applicability than CBT is. All right, so CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is the most studied genre of therapy. And why? Because it's the simplest to understand and it's the most easily studied because you can replicate what it's doing. Like you can't replicate human to human interaction, but with CBT, you can read a script and then you can, use the same script for all kinds of people. And it's at face value, it makes sense. Oh, yeah, change your thoughts. Like, that guy, Daniel Amen, I just want to say, like he does the brain scans. He was on Oprah. He's all over the place, making like somebody told me he makes $30 million a year. He will do a scan of your brain and then tell you what is going on, and then that's supposed to really help you. That makes tons of sense on the surface. I called them and asked, like, do you actually have research that supports this? No, they don't have any research that supports it. And they probably tried to do some research. I'm surprised they didn't fake it because that's what a lot of people do. So, my goal for my career is to help as many people as I possibly can. And in doing so, I want to kind of pick up where Sigmund Freud left off. So I aim to revive the focus on the subconscious, but in a way that's direct and efficient and powerful. I know it's possible to achieve breakthroughs quickly and reliably, and we can do this by using the subconscious to support our goals, not to undermine them. I had a therapist ask me, like, well, you keep saying it works in practice. How does it work in theory? I don't even really give a shit how it works in theory. I know it works in practice. And we can get into the theory in other videos, but basically, it doesn't translate very conveniently to logical left brain terms. Having said that, science doesn't even really understand what dreaming is, or meditation, or mindfulness, or hypnosis. Do those things exist just even though we don't understand them? Yes, geesh. All right. The birth of trading psychology. So while psychology evolved over centuries, trading psychology is a relatively young field. And it wasn't until the late 20th century that experts began to explore the mental and emotional challenges that are faced by traders. Mark Douglas is a key figure in this field. I consider him to be the father of trading psychology. And he's credited with illuminating the main psychological hurdles that traders face. He also described the ideal trading mindset. And in his work, Douglas emphasized that understanding the mindset required for successful trading is straightforward, but developing and maintaining that mindset is one of the hardest things a person can do. Mr. Douglas explained that trading success requires more than a profitable strategy. It demands emotional control and resilience in the face of inevitable losses and uncertainty. He recognized that traders often know what they should do, yet they struggle to act on that knowledge. And the gap between knowing and truly believing, and therefore acting, is a central challenge in trading psychology. The people who can do that are successful, and everyone else is going to lose money. So I agree with Mark Douglas that most problems have to do with fear, but I frame it a little differently. I see mindset mistakes as a product of our logical brain going offline as our adrenaline system takes over. So when I discovered that, I instantly realized that the therapy I had already developed, which is called de-adrenalization, would be perfect for traders. Adrenaline is the enemy of every trader. And yeah, it has to do with fear, like fear of missing out or fear of losing money, fear of leaving money on the table. But also it could also be overconfidence, and that's all adrenaline. So anyway, let me just tell you like a little bit about myself if you're interested, and then how I became a trading mindset guru or whatever you want to call it. So I was born in 1971, and I was raised in Coventry, Connecticut, which is a small town. Life was very simple, but of course it had its hardships. I'm probably on the autism spectrum. And growing up, I was very awkward and shy. I often felt like I didn't quite fit in. And then when I was 14, my whole life changed because my mom had a stroke and then she became handicapped for life. So everything was up in the air. And then when it's just started to get better, my dad got diagnosed with cancer. And then a year after that, he died. So I was just turned 16. And then everybody told me, a goofy kid who could barely change a light bulb, that I'm the man of the house now and I got to take care of my mother. And like when you're a kid like that, you want to grow up, and it's intoxicating to feel like, well, now I'm an adult and I can play this role and I can save the family. So I believed all that, but really what happened was it was a recipe for massive anxiety and depression. And of course I wasn't up to the task. So there was one day, just so you know, like I was 16. I just got my license. I had to drive my mom to occupational therapy. Then I drove my dad to chemotherapy. And then I drove my brother to basketball practice. And I had to try to do my homework in the car. And no, that was just a really tough time. And then what really sucked is my mother's grief she turned her into an emotional parasite and a raging narcissist. I think she had her issues before all this happened, but when my dad died, it just totally broke her. And then her abuse of me and my brother is really what broke my heart. If you want to know a little bit of what she was like, just watch The Sopranos. I mean, my brother and I can't even watch it. It's like uncanny. It's eerie how much my mom was like Livia Soprano. Ugh. I was not able to grow up like my peers did. I was deeply wounded down to my core. And then a well meaning person gave me one of the most popular self help books of all time. It was called The Power of Positive Thinking. That is the worst fucking book that I have ever read in my entire life. I had to try to smear some positivity onto my mountain of sadness. And then when it obviously didn't make me feel better, I had only one person to blame, and that was me. I couldn't change my thoughts. I couldn't change my emotions to the degree that the book suggested. So I was like, well, what's wrong with me? Did I want to be that way? I was asking myself that for decades. Did I choose to be this fucked up? And that is a horrible thought. It makes you crazy. Just like I'm sure it is for a lot of you guys when you go off track and you're not following your plans, and then you just want to get a win, so you try even harder, and then by the time you realize that you've totally screwed yourself over, you're asking yourself, what is this, self-sabotage? Why would I want to sabotage myself? What, can I even trust myself? By the way, I don't really believe in self-sabotage. I think there's a lot of stuff underneath that. I mean, I even tried to look up research on that. I didn't see anything. And I mean, I was just like everybody else. I kind of believed like, yeah, I must be self-sabotaging. But now I've discovered some things underneath that, why I was doing what I was doing. PTSD and bipolar. By the way, if you have bipolar disorder, I don't know if that's such a great recipe for trading if you're manic or if you're depressed. If you have bipolar disorder and you want to trade and you want to get better, try taking some meds. I think that's a good idea. I don't really like antidepressants. I don't think they really often work. That's just my opinion. I do think that bipolar meds are pretty important. So Another thing is PTSD, and I had no idea that I had PTSD. I like just like everybody else, I thought it was only for combat veterans. And if you look it up, there's no definition. It's just a list of symptoms. And then, of course, if you look up anything, you're really only seeing the most extreme cases. And that really bugs the shit out of me. So, like, even my doctor and other therapists, they screened me for bipolar 1. I have bipolar 2. So they're like, well, do you spend all your money and bang a whole bunch of whores and like run around naked? Well, no. So I guess you don't have bipolar. I had bipolar 2. It's a much lesser version, although super damaging, of course. With PTSD, everybody thinks it's just for a combat veteran who's fucking drunk and in the gutter and he's just a pathetic piece of shit. Veterans get offended by that. I've talked to plenty of veterans and they don't like that. Who wants to be characterized in that way? Who wants to be defined by a disorder? Who wants to be defined by their unchangeable past? You know what I mean? So I've talked to all kinds of, like I said, it was 10 years after I got my doctorate. I realized, oh my God, I totally have PTSD. Like it totally changed my brain and it explains so many different things. I think what happens when you have PTSD is you get adrenalized. That's how I refer to it. And it means that you just have your adrenaline shoots up faster than normal people, comes down slower than normal people, and it's always kind of there. That's what makes it hard to sleep or relax or just slow down your thoughts. I hope that, you're finding value in this because my coach told me I should just be focused on traders, but I think this is really important. So I've talked to people with horror stories who had no idea they had PTSD. And of course, just like me, did not want to be seen as comparing themselves to combat veterans. But, there's all kinds of stuff going on. And I think that it's really important to just kind of try to figure out what's going on for you. So, like a lot of therapists, maybe even all of them, I decided to study psychology so I could figure out what the hell is wrong with me. And of course, I really do feel like because I've had so much struggle and pain, of course, not, more than everybody, but because I've been through so much, I really do want to help other people who go through that too. And I do find that traders go through a lot emotionally and they can be really hard on themselves and put way too much pressure on themselves, and then you lose a ton of money, and then where are you? That's tough. So I really do enjoy helping traders. It's very interesting and people are really appreciative as well, and then they can have the hard evidence that before they saw me they were losing money and then afterwards they're making a whole lot of money. So you may have heard me say that I've always been obsessed with the question of how can smart people do stupid shit? Well, it's because when you are acting or reacting or doing whatever, your fight or flight brain is making a lot of input there. Your emotions, your instincts, of course, are there. Like you're not making decisions all the time that are rational. Like you're not thinking to yourself, well, I think I'm going to have this sandwich for lunch. You're looking at the menu and then something jumps out at you and then you just do it. So like not everything is this well thought out decision. And like if it comes to something like who are you going to marry or where do you want to live or what kind of career do you want to have, that's your gut. That's not like even if you did a pro and con list, should I be a trader or should I work 9 to 5? It's not how you make that decision. It's what feels right to you. So I've always been interested in psychology. I started the mental health field in 1993, which is a long time ago for some of you people. And I have spent decades helping others. I was always searching for something deeper. And all the schooling that I got, and all the books, and all the professors I talked to, all the countless therapy sessions that I wasted time on, wasted money on, it helped me a little bit. But I mean, at the most, it gave me a little bit of insight, but it didn't really change anything. So in 2015, I made a huge breakthrough. I became the first person in the United States to help people with PTSD qualify for state medical marijuana programs. And I'm certain that that has saved many people's lives. So personally, I've talked to over 17,000 people with PTSD. I don't know if there's anybody else in the world who's done that. I mean, I don't know. So I really am grateful to have learned so much from them. Like, I realized the role that adrenaline plays. Like, I realized how PTSD actually really works. And I wrote the book, Your Brain is a RoboCat. Finally Understand Your Trauma Response, which you can get on Amazon if you look up RoboCat book. And of course, there's other videos I have where I describe how the brain works. And it's a metaphor in which, part of your brain is a robot. That's totally logical, but you really live in your cat brain, and I call it a cat because cats are a pain in the ass. You can't get them to do what you want them to do. When I do these videos, I actually kind of have to make an effort to not be angry because I have a chip on my shoulder because I went to therapy for so many years and it really didn't help. And I mean, if you have somebody in your life who has PTSD or suffering from other things and you're begging them to get help, well, part of the reason they're not doing it is because they know on some level that the help usually doesn't help. And that's really tragic. I mean, psychology therapy is based on Sigmund Freud's idea from, again, the 1880s, 140 years ago, that if you talk about your pain, you're releasing it. I totally disagree. I think you're rehearsing it. Well, I guess what I'm saying is like I didn't feel like I was releasing my pain. I felt like I was rehearsing my pain, and that drove me nuts. It wasn't helping me, wasn't helping my clients either. Even though I was taught to just get them to talk and then maybe good things will happen along the way. That's really kind of what a lot of therapy is. So I invented de-adrenalization therapy. What we need are more experiential therapies that work with both systems of the brain, the logical conscious side and the deeper instinctual side. Now, hypnosis does that. I've practiced it. I have tons of training in hypnosis. I've seen people have amazing breakthroughs, but it's too bad. You have to help them get into a trance, which takes a while. People with control issues don't want to do that. And then you can't really talk to them throughout. So a lot of people have seen like those stage shows and like shows on TV where you get people to do all this crazy stuff. You can never get somebody to do something they don't want to do, either with hypnosis or with the eye movement therapy that I use. It only reinforces intentions that you already had. And those people who run up there at those stage shows and they act like idiots, there's a large part of them that wants to be up there and they let themselves do that. If you're sitting there like, oh, I'm not going to get hypnotized, I'm not going to get hypnotized, well, of course, it's not going to happen for you. Um, all right. So I created de-adrenalization, and it's a process that helps people to dial down their nervous system to reduce emotional noise and to stay calm and rational, even in stressful situations. Instead of just managing their thoughts, it gives people a tool to directly control their emotional state. So de-adrenalization taps the subconscious. It gets both brain systems to work together, and this helps you to stay calm and make smart decisions, no matter what's going on around you. To further advance my mission, I developed an app that for many users proved more effective than a live therapist. So this was a few years ago, and we had a statistician run the numbers, and you can find those on my website. It was more effective than a live therapist. And so my own app even helped me immensely with my grief over the death of my son. And like I might have mentioned in other videos, my son passed away. He was 19. He had a heart condition we didn't know about. We found him. I couldn't get the image out of my brain. And then I was like, oh, yeah, shit, I got an app for this. And it totally worked. Like, just like that. It was awesome. Of course, I still had to go through the grief and the clean pain, but it's really just amazing for grief or for all kinds of traumas and for traders. So we created this app, me and my business partners, and we thought we were going to change the world. We had an in at the highest level of the Department of Defense. And that person had told us that we need to create an app. But it didn't work out. That's what happens with business sometimes. My partners had talked a big game, and then they ended up being incompetent, and I lost all my money, like right after my son died. So I was pretty fucked up for quite a while there, but I'm doing a lot better now. Thank you very much. So, when you develop something that's good, it doesn't even matter. Like I would grew up hearing that saying, like, if you build a better mousetrap, the world will beat a path to your door. That was the saying. That's not true, man. You got to have $1 billion for marketing, because your message just gets lost among all the other screaming voices out there. There's all kinds of people out there who could help you maybe a little bit, and they'll charge you a ton, or maybe people who don't even help you at all, and they're just as loud as my voice. So if you get any help from me or these videos or my AI coach or whatever, then please tell other people, just so that you can help them, not to make me more money. I don't want to make more money. My career in psychology spans decades, but my transition into working with traders was intentional. I realized that the same groundbreaking technology and psychological insights I had applied to PTSD could be harnessed to help traders. Why traders? Because unlike many other groups, traders really want to improve. Too many of my PTSD clients were just kind of, I don't know, I think sometimes people use their problems to feel special. And I wanted to get to work with people where oftentimes they just kind of wanted hand holding. It's not everybody, but it's a lot of people. And of course, they don't understand at face value what I was selling. I felt like I was saying, hey, so your infection is actually caused by these invisible things called germs, and I have this antibiotic that will cure you faster and easier than you thought possible. And then it felt like they were saying, okay, yeah, that sounds great, but I'm just going to have my doctor drain my blood again with leeches. Instead of paying you what you're worth, I'd rather use my insurance and complain to somebody else every week for the next 8 years. That's how I experienced a lot of people. And here I was, so lucky to be holding a golden key, but talking to all these prisoners who didn't want the golden key. It made me so frustrated for so long that I finally gave up. And it's really interesting to me how, like, it's kind of funny. Like, when people get into trading and they realize, oh my God, I really got to be as psychologically on top of things as I could be so that I can do this, they'll make all kinds of changes to themselves. And it might be that their spouse or their family's been begging them for years, like, please, can you change? Can you be a better person? And it's easy to put off other people, but you can't put off the markets, because that's hard data. And it's just kind of funny to me how, like, people will go all out to be better traders. So traders understand that investing in their psychological well-being can translate into significant financial returns, like possibly like incredible. And they see the value in developing the right mindset, and they're willing to pursue it, and they're willing to pay for it. Everyone agrees that psychology and mindset are key to trading success, but few people know how to develop them beyond basic advice like breathing exercises or meditation. What I offer is different from everybody else's approach, and it's needed now more than ever. Can I convince people to trust me and try it? Well, we'll see. If you're smart, you'll go to my website and you'll try it right now. There's a sample session. You can try the eye movements and see how it feels, and I bet you'll like it. But there's no way to really understand it until you do try it, because it's an experiential thing. And by that, I mean it's not just your thoughts. It's impossible to understand unless you try it. So if you will go ahead and do that, I would like for you to begin to see the future of trading psychology for yourself. Thanks for watching.